Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be ranking all of the armor enchantments in Minecraft dungeons from worst to best. And by the way, I have made two other videos ranking enchantments. I already ranked the melee weapon enchantments and also the ranged weapon enchantments in Minecraft dungeons. So if you haven't seen those videos, take a look at them. But anyways, we have 22 enchantments to get through from worst all the way to the best. So let us get into it. At the number 22 spot, we have an enchantment that some of you are going to be surprised to see so low. Gravity Pulse, which is labeled as powerful and will make it so that a blast occurs every 5 seconds that pulls nearby enemies towards you with a 200% range on this effect at tier 3. Suev, this is labeled as powerful. Why would you put this so low? Whoa, this is crazy. Okay, listen guys. When you use this on very regular low HP mobs, this is good, okay? It can group all of them up for you and it will make cleaning them up very easy. The problem lies in enchanted mobs and creepers, and also anytime when you're low health and you do not want to fight mobs. This will just start pulling enemies towards you that you do not want to pull towards you. Like for example, we have the enchanted zombies with a fire trail. If you pull that towards you, you might end up killing yourself. And then we have another scenario that I'm sure everybody has experienced that has used this enchantment, is a creeper getting pulled towards you. And back when I was leveling, I put this enchantment on my armor because I thought it was cool, and it got me killed so many times. It pulled so many things to me that I did not want pulled to me. And honestly, if there was an F tier on this list, that's where I would put this enchantment. Next up is Explorer, which will grant you a small amount of health for every 100 blocks you explore on the map, and you will gain 1% of your health every 100 blocks explored at tier 3. You will only gain health when you explore new blocks, so you can't just go back to old ones. That does not count as exploring, so keep that in mind. At first glance, this may seem like you can just keep gaining health every 100 blocks that you travel, but it really is every 100 blocks that you explore, so they have to be brand new blocks that you have not been on yet. And of course, I mean this in a specific dungeon run. If you complete redstone mines with this and then you go back there, all of the blocks in the dungeon will be refreshed and you will gain health from stepping on each of them once again. I mean, sure, this heals you a bit, but it's just such a minor benefit that when you compare this to the other enchantments, it really is not worth putting on your armor. I like the idea of the enchantment, but I just don't think that it affects your gameplay much at all. We have food reserves, which makes it so that whenever you use a healing potion, you also create random food items with 3 of them crafted at tier 3. So I mean, basically this acts as an extra regeneration effect after your healing potion. Once you use a healing potion, you are already gonna be full HP, so the regeneration is just over healing you for a period of time. And then even if you do get in combat with this, you can still die pretty easily. Next is Recycler, which makes it so that after a certain amount of damage inflicting projectiles shot at you, you will craft a small quiver of arrows. And at tier 3, you will craft this small quiver of arrows every 10th projectile that is shot at you. Now this will craft a good amount of arrows for you, but here's the problem. Those arrows will only remain with you during that exact dungeon run where you spawn these arrows in. If you return to your camp after that dungeon, all of those arrows that you spawned in will be gone. So I mean, if you're struggling with arrow management during dungeons and you are willing to maybe stand around for a bit and get shot at, then this can be good for you. And I think this would especially benefit something like the auto crossbow, since that is a very fast fiery weapon and it does need more arrows. But of course, if you are using more of a melee weapon build, this is going to be entirely useless to you, and because of all of that, this ranks pretty low. We've got Electrified up next, and this makes it so that whenever you roll, you will zap 3 nearby enemies with lightning bolts that deal a pretty decent amount of damage that depends on the power level of your armor. At max efficiency, you can activate this enchantment every 3 seconds, since that's about the cooldown of the roll ability. The range on this is alright. You can still zap enemies when you're rolling away as long as you're pretty close to them when you initially begin the roll. If you have a little bit of distance between you and the enemies though, you won't hit them with this when you roll, so you have to watch out for that. I think the damage that this does is pretty good, but the fact that you have to implement rolling on a consistent basis into your damage rotation is something that I don't really like. And the time that you spend rolling can take away from your weapon hits and also your artifacts. Thorns is next, which will let you deal damage to enemies if they deal damage to you. At tier 3, one of their hits will turn into 200% damage returned back to them. At first, it seems like this could be very good because we are doing 200% damage back to mobs, and usually mobs hit us for a pretty decent amount. Although it seems like this Thorns enchant could be really good, unfortunately, it's just hard to sustain yourself when mobs are hitting you constantly. Usually in Minecraft dungeons, you kind of have to combo mobs and not get hit. But overall, when I was letting the cows in the cow level hit me, I was not dealing that much damage back to them with Thorns, and they could easily kill me if I would not swing my melee weapon. So unfortunately, this is just not as effective as it would seem. Next up is Burning, which will deal a set amount of damage every half second to enemies in melee range of you. The amount of damage done within the tiers will vary with the power level of the armor. Some weapons just fully outrange this enchantment, so mobs won't even be getting hit by this and they'll only be getting hit by your weapon. But if you're using weapons with a short range, such as daggers for example, they will consistently be getting hit by this enchantment. I think this enchantment's alright, but what makes it really cool is the aesthetic that it brings, because you will have a orange ring around your character when you have this enchantment equipped, but as of effectiveness, it doesn't bring too much to the table. Next up is Fire Trail, which makes it so that rolling creates a trail of fire behind you, which deals damage to mobs for 4 seconds, with the amount of damage that this does varying with the power level of your armor. The fire that this leaves behind actually deals a lot of damage. Seriously, like a lot of damage. But this is really hard to implement into your playstyle. If you just roll towards the mobs, they are not going to be affected by this. You have to roll and then go backwards so that they can enter the fire. But the problem is, instead of hitting them with my weapon, I have to hit them with the fire. And when choosing between the fire and the weapon, I much rather use my weapon. Now, if you do have some strategy with this enchantment, please share it. I would really like to hear how you utilize this enchantment. Next up is Health Synergy, which will give you a small amount of health whenever you activate a artifact, with 5% total health gained at tier 3. This doesn't do a lot of healing, but it is pretty consistent, and if you have artifacts that you are pressing a lot of the time, such as the Light Feather or Boots of Swiftness or Ghost Cloak, then this could end up healing you a decent amount and could help keep you up for just a little bit of extra time. Then we have Frenzied, which will give you extra attack speed when you are at less than half health, with a 30% increase in melee and ranged attack speed at tier 3. This is definitely a noticeable attack speed buff, but the problem with it is it's really hard to constantly be below 50% health. I found that unless I went out of my way to go under 50% HP, I usually wouldn't get that low, so this effect was almost never working for me. But this could be good in a build if you base it around being at low health for most of the time. So maybe you could throw on Final Shout on your armor and combo it with this. But for general use, this barely ever procs, just because most of the time when we are alive, we're above 50% HP. Chilling is next, which is labeled as powerful, and it emits a blast every 2 seconds that reduces the movement speed and attack speed of nearby enemies for 1 second, with a 60% reduction in speed at tier 3. The chilling effect is okay, and it can help you take some less damage from enemies, but I just found that the way it works is very strange, since it emits a blast every 2 seconds that only lasts for 1 second, and I just found that sometimes there would be enemies that would come up to me and be able to hit me without getting chilled. I mean, in the general look of things, it is pretty nice to have something that just constantly chills all enemies around you, but I don't think that chill effect is very beneficial to you in combat, and that's why I kind of put it in the middle. Then we have Speed Synergy, which will give you a 20% movement speed buff whenever you activate any artifact with a 3-second duration at tier 3. The 20% added movement speed that this enchant itself adds isn't great, but if you combine this with the Boots of Swiftness and Ghost Cloak and Deathcap Mushroom, this can definitely end up having a pretty big effect on your overall speed. Keep in mind though that the effect will not stack, so you cannot just keep on gaining 20% movement speed every time you activate a new artifact. Next up is Potion Barrier, which will give you a 90% damage reduction buff every time you drink a healing potion for a short duration, with that duration being 9 seconds at tier 3. Since the cooldown on the health potion is about 45 seconds with regular armor, it would be hard to put this enchantment to good use with regular pieces of armor. I mean, the 90% damage reduction is amazing, but if you can only use that only every 45 seconds, it's just not that great. But the thing is, with the champions or the hero's armor, you have a 40% cooldown reduction effect, making this usable much more of the time. And that effect makes this a lot stronger because every roughly 25 seconds you'll be having a full heal and a 9-second 90% damage reduction. So this enchantment has a lot of potential when used with the champions or hero's armor, but when used with regular armor, this is still pretty good. Next is Snowball, which will essentially give you a snowball pet that stuns nearby enemies for about 2.5 seconds at a time, with this triggering every single second at tier 3. I mean, this is a pretty good consistent effect that will help you clear enemies quicker and also stay alive for longer. Of course, you don't have control over which mobs get stunned and which mobs don't, but since this pet is stunning mobs every second, a decent amount of mobs will get tagged by this. Deflect is next, which grants a small chance to deflect incoming projectiles with a 60% chance to trigger at tier 3. This is much more effective than it may seem. A 60% chance to deflect every single projectile that comes towards you is actually really strong. It is usually the ranged mobs that deal a lot of damage to you, so if you can block 60% of those attacks, it really increases your survivability. This isn't really a flashy enchantment, it's not gonna have any cool animations, it doesn't let you do anything out of the ordinary, and it doesn't seem like it's that great, but in the end it really boosts your survivability. And if you're having trouble surviving, this is gonna help you out a lot because it's usually the ranged mobs that deal a lot of damage to you. Swiftfooted is next, which will give you a movement speed buff every time you roll for 3 seconds with a 50% increase in movement speed at tier 3. A 50% increase in movement speed is very substantial, and as always with movement speed buffs, if you stack movement speed buffs together, you can become very fast very quickly. Just go ahead and throw some Boots of Swiftness on, a Ghost Cloak, a Deathcap Mushroom, and you are good to go. This is great to get at lower levels as well because that's when you can't really get all of the speed artifacts, and this on its own is a pretty good speed increase. Next up is Surprise Gift, which gives you a chance to create random consumables whenever you drink a healing potion. At tier 3 you have a 150% chance to trigger this, so that means sometimes you'll get more than one consumable. The consumables that you can get from this are Strength Potions, Shadow's Breath Potions, Swiftness Potions, and also arrows. Now, I know what all of you are gonna say. Suev, are you crazy? Suev, what are you doing? Why are you putting this so high? Well, let me explain. Strength just doubles your damage and it makes clearing mobs so fast, so it's worth having even if it's not very consistent. With my experience in using this enchantment, it's very useful. I mean, say you don't get strength, swiftness just speeds you up. It's very nice to be faster. And then you can get the Shadow's Breath Potion, which lets you one-shot any mob you want. I think this is one of the most underrated armor enchantments out there right now. You know, you see this create consumable effect and you say, oh, it's not that good, and you just don't think about it. But honestly, it is really good. Again, there are some inconsistencies with it, but just having it as a permanent perk, a chance to always get strength and swiftness potions, is something that I really like to have in my pocket. Next up is Protection, which just reduces the damage that you take with a 15% reduction in damage taken at tier 3. This is great if you need to become tankier, and it will work with any armor in the game. You don't need a specific build for this to work, so it's really good in overall use. Soul speed is next, which works whenever you gather souls. You will gain a 1% stacking movement speed boost for a short time each time you collect a soul with a 4-second duration. This just keeps on stacking every time you get souls, and it's crazy. You can only get this on soul armor, so armor that increases your soul gathering, and you do need to have some supporting artifacts for this to make sure that you are getting enough souls. But if you are creating a soul build, you must have this. You will be able to go faster than anybody else in the game. There's nothing that can compare to this, not even closely. And honestly, this enchantment just really surprised me. Next up is Final Shout, which is labeled as powerful, and it will make it so that when your health drops below 25%, all of your artifacts will be used, ignoring the cooldown periods on them. At tier 3, this can occur up to every 8 seconds. This is incredible. My favorite combo with this is the Deathcap Mushroom, Ironhide Amulet, and then the Soul Healer, because every time you dip to low HP, the Soul Healer will heal you up, and then you'll also get a crazy attack speed bonus and a damage reduction bonus. This makes it possible for you to just keep on surviving at less than 50% HP because your artifacts will keep on proccing every 8 seconds if you do dip below 25%. If you pick this enchantment, you will kind of have to adapt your playstyle to it because you want to make sure that you are utilizing it to its fullest potential. But if you get used to dipping to low health on purpose and you have the proper supporting artifacts, this can turn into an incredible enchantment. Next up is Cowardice, which will give you increased ranged and melee damage when you are at full HP, with a 40% increase in both types of damage at tier 3. I mean, with most builds you're going to be full HP, and a lot of weapons have a far hitting radius, so it is pretty easy to stay at full HP. Also, if you're stacking a Radiance build, then it's definitely going to be easy for you. And I mean, I'm able to stay at full HP pretty much all the time when I'm using my full build, and so this acts like a permanent 40% increase to your range and melee damage. This is a crazy damage increase, and when I was testing this at the secret cow level, at first I was only able to 3-hit cows, but then when I put this enchantment on, I was able to start 2-hitting them, which is a significant boost in speed of clearing dungeons. This is definitely something you're not going to want to use alongside the last enchantment that I mentioned, the Final Shout, because they are two completely separate builds, one being based on being at full HP and the other being at 25% HP, and rather you have to make another build that keeps you at high HP most of the time, and then this will always be effective. And at number 1, everybody, we have my absolute favorite enchantment in Minecraft Dungeons, Cooldown, everybody. This reduces the cooldown time between the uses of your artifacts with a 27% reduced cooldown at tier 3. You can also get this enchantment as a perk on pieces of armor like the Splendid Robe, Battle Robe, Evocation Robe, and Ember Robe. And if you stack the artifact cooldown on that armor with 2 cooldown enchantments, you will have a permanent never-ending Deathcap Mushroom. And if you're fighting a boss, you can keep up the Gong of Weakening permanently as well. Also the Boots of Swiftness, and just about the Ghost Cloak as well. There's a slight little split second where you have to wait for that cooldown to pop up, and if you do want that to be constant, you can have 3 cooldown enchantments plus the perk on the armor. Seriously though, when I was trying to play without this enchantment, it was torture. It was torture. Guys, you have to try this out. Try out getting a lot of cooldown enchantments on a piece of armor that already has the perk, and then use items such as the Deathcap Mushroom and the Boots of Swiftness and Ghost Cloak and the Gong of Weakening, and tell me it's not addictive, okay? Because I can literally never go back to playing the game as I did before this enchantment, because the game just feels so slow when you can't spam your abilities. So I really recommend that all of you at least try this enchantment out. Anyways, everybody, that was it for all of the armor enchantments in Minecraft Dungeons ranked from worst to best. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one, and if you did, maybe leave a like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out. Also, if you didn't see the previous videos in this series and also any of my other videos at all, make sure to go check them out. And I said it last episode and I'm gonna say it again, still 98% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed to me. So if you are a returning viewer and you like to watch multiple of my videos, I would really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Now, for those of you who have been watching all of my videos throughout until the very end, first of all, thank you. Really thank you. But I have a favor to ask of you. comment down below with bananas at the start of your comment. Okay, only you guys are gonna know why you're commenting bananas. But then after that, first, I'm curious about two things. First of all, what videos would you like to see next? If you have, you know, any needs, any ideas, please let me know down below. And also, I am curious still about the tier list and worst to best format comparison, because I would like to know pointers as to why you all like whichever format you do like. Or if you just want to comment bananas, you know, that works too, because I would still know why you were commenting that. Anyways, other than all of that, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.